welcome back to Build. I'm your host, Brittany Jones-Cooper, and today I'm sitting down with Horace Whitaker to discuss his new Epix series, Godfather of Harlem, which tells the true story of infamous crime boss Bumpy Johnson and his quest to take back the streets of Harlem after spending 11 years in Alcatraz. Whitaker shines as a reserved and ruthless man, and he's here to talk about the show, but first, here's a clip.
What'd you come here for?
Harlem is mine.
Times have changed. I haven't.
Let's keep going, man. Keep going, man. Keep going, going.
We must fight by whatever means necessary.
They don't think the throne is mine, but I know that it is. I've been on the street for 30 years, and I'm still here. Just get it. Just get it.
Put your hands together for Horace Whitaker.
Hey.
Horace, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Yeah.
So glad to have you here. I live in Harlem. I've lived in Harlem for 10 years.
Nice.
And I know you guys had the big premiere the other night at the Apollo.
Yeah, that was a great night.
Yeah, how was that?
I mean, the audience, was projected up on the screen. The audience really responded to so many things. And afterwards, Swizz Beatz and Rick Ross and everyone got up on stage and they started to do some performance. It was a really special night.
Yeah, and did you guys film a scene at the Apollo in the show?
Oh, it's in the show, but it's in place in some of the wide shots and stuff.
Gotcha.
We haven't done any scenes. We've done stuff to the Linux Lounge, different things like that.
Yeah, I saw the Linux Lounge, and I know the original one is no longer there. Right. And it was there when I moved there so long ago, so it was kind of nice to see it back, even if it was just for fiction. But
Landmark.
There's all these beautiful landmarks, and that's one beautiful thing about the show is Harlem is so vibrant, has so much history, has so much culture, beautiful architecture and art, and you kind of get a little bit of all of that in this show on top of just all the wonderful performances. So such a great show.
Fortunate. I mean, the other actors are it's just monstrous. They're so good.
I know.
So it's really exciting to get. I mean, from the family to Il Finesh and to Vincent D'Onofrio, who plays my sort of nemesis as Chin Gigante, and all of these different. Giancarlo Esposito is amazing. Luis Guzman. Yeah. It's really exciting to do.
Yeah, the cast is stacked, and the story is so captivating. I mean, we've seen Bumpy in other movies, but I love this iteration of him because we get these 10 episodes to really sort of live in this world and breathe a little bit. Is that something that makes Godfather of Harlem different?
Yeah, I think so. I think also in the time frame that we're exploring his life and stuff, he just gets out of prison, and he's going back and trying to reclaim his territory. So you're watching him reclaim territories in the show, and I think it's special that way. You get a chance to really get to know these people, watch the relationships in the family, like I was talking about with Antoinette Legacy and all the people in that room, and then go over to, Paul Sorvino and Chaz Palminteri and Vincent for the Mafia, and then in the middle you got Luis Guzman and Giancarlo. I mean, so it's just a tapestry of things that are just beautiful.
All of these historical figures that we kind of think we know, but I feel like we get to dig into different parts of their personalities. For you, with Bumpy, what kind of research did you do to understand the man that he was?
I mean, I got a chance to, read all the material that I wanted to, look at his prison records, look at some of the notes and things that he had written, his poetry and stuff like that. But also got a chance to meet with some people who advised me. Chisholm, who worked with him when he was in the mob, and Junebug, and then talked to Professor Smalls, and he was giving us all the sort of back history on it, and it was really important because he had taken over the mosque after Malcolm. And, Nigel Thatch plays Malcolm X, and he's just brilliant in the role, and it helped me to understand that relationship a little bit better because it was new. That relationship was new, Bumpy Johnson and Malcolm X, and the things that they might have done together. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, did you find that to be really fascinating, or did you learn something new? Because I didn't know that Malcolm X had this connection with Bumpy and how kind of intertwined this crime world and the civil rights movement happening at the same time. I mean, so many things overlapped.
Yeah. I mean, I think, when you think about it, you realize you can see it because, when he was Detroit Red, when Malcolm was on the darker side of the law, and then when his transformation that happened after prison, you could understand that they would have ran into each other and knew each other, and in this case, even advised each other and worked together to try to solve certain problems. Because I think Malcolm always had this feeling that if they could turn those criminals into a force for good, they would be able to control and take over and change things in the community itself. And so we get to see this relationship as it grows, and it's questioning. It makes my character, makes Bumpy Johnson, have to be educated and think about what it is, what is the circumstances of what he does. You know, with his daughter's a heroin addict, you know, and she's a prostitute on the streets, you know, because of things that he's been selling. And so Malcolm's pointing that up to him, and he's pointing it up to himself to try to figure out, you know, what's his path, how can he give back, what can he do?
That's what's interesting about Bumpy is he is, I guess, a bad guy, but you find yourself rooting for him because he does these things. He's obviously the head of this crime group, but also he does so much for the community and he does give back. So do you, in your research, did you kind of find what his motivations were? Like, what was he really trying to accomplish?
And I think that he felt like he should have the opportunity to reach towards the American dream, you know. And in this case, by any means necessary, to do what he thought was necessary to be able to have it. There was like a lot of roads closed to him. He originally wanted to be a lawyer, and now he's like trying to figure out, you know, how can I excel? And studies with Madame Sinclair. He like starts to become like a numbers runner and a mobster, and I think you know, it made him stay on track to like try in his mind to like excel and be all that he could be given the circumstances that he had, you know, and we explore that. Yeah. But we explore like also the results of what he does and how that affects him and how he's continuing the struggle.
That is, it's such a fine line because, you know, it's, you look at this era in the 60s and you think, oh, so many things have changed. But really, when you look at the era that this show covers and sort of the same civil rights issues we're dealing with now, whether it's the, you know, police brutality or even the opioid crisis we're going through right now, there's so many similarities, and it kind of reminds you that progress is delicate.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that was most exciting when I started developing the project. Was that we were going to be exploring issues that are of yesterday in the 60s, but that are of today. Yeah. This is like a real mirror back to society to look at, like you say, the heroin you know, issues and the opiate crisis that's going on in the country. You know, sort of polarization of the country and stuff, which happens between when you see Malcolm and the head of the Nazi party facing off and stuff with Adam Clayton Powell. There's an interesting thing to try to like take in and understand. So I think we were able to touch on all of those things. While we're having a real human story about people just trying to achieve and live great lives, you know.
How many liberties does Godfather of Harlem take with Bumpy's story and some of these real men and women? You know, how much of it is kind of like factual, and then how much of it is sort of fun and interesting and free?
I mean, there's extrapolation because we're doing scenes that weren't recorded or anything, but a lot of the incidents, there was a lot of meticulous care done to create like the historical moments the way they came. And, you know, like some of the private conversations are just used for philosophy, but quite often they'll use the actual speeches and the words from Malcolm or from Adam Clayton. Or they're actually using like real historical dialogue. So. Yeah.
Adam Clayton Powell, I mean, Giancarlo's a real
monster.
He's a force, man. He really embodies this man who, I mean, there's streets named after him in Harlem, the church, I mean, everything had such a presence, and you really see the man, and I guess I just didn't know that much about Adam Clayton Powell.
Yeah, I think he's always very flamboyant, very, you know, but he was really effective. He's one of the most effective congressmen there was. I mean, he like was able to push bill after bill after bill through, and then unfortunately in the end he was kind of pushed out of office and stuff.
Right. So Harlem is another character in this. Did you guys actually get to shoot up in Harlem? What was your relationship with the borough and some of the historical sites? Like
mostly everything was shot either in Brooklyn or in Harlem. We shot most of the exterior things in Harlem and many of the interior scenes and stuff as well. So it was important when we decided to do the project that we knew we were going to be doing it in New York and we knew we were going to shoot in Harlem. Yeah. And it really adds to the piece. It adds to the flavor, to the energy of the people inside the scenes. Helps me out when I'm walking in and I say, oh, this is real, you know.
Another thing that helps so much is the music. And Swizz Beatz is the musical supervisor.
He's a music producer, executive producer of the music. I mean, he pulled together like a soundtrack for the film that's like this TV show that's really powerful. I think every week there'll be like a couple of new songs that are popping out because all the songs were written actually for the show itself. He was able to bring everybody together and get them to do a writing lab basically and create all these songs that were right for as they watched the movie, right for the show.
That's one thing I think that helps it connect to where we are now as well, because the music goes from everything from jazz to like rap, and it's modern day rap, but it's based in the 60s, but it doesn't feel out of place. It feels on point because of what they're going through is kind of similar to what we're going through now.
The emotional context is a similar thing.
Yeah. So you are also an executive producer on this project.
Yeah.
How does that change your experience as the lead actor and the executive producer? Is it nice to have that extra input, in this storytelling?
I mean, it is because it was brought to me as an idea. Do you want to do a project about Bumpy Johnson? And I thought, this could be interesting, especially with with Malcolm X, and so Marquand Smith and Jim Atchison came to me, and then we went to Chris Mancato and Paul Eckstein to see if they'd write it. They became the showrunners and the producers on the show, and so all the aspects of the show up until even this moment right now, I've been dealing with the show, and I feel proud of it. I feel like we were able to accomplish something really, really powerful, and it's moving.
Yeah. And this is produced under your Significant Productions company, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I know
It's Epix who's releasing it.
Yeah.
But our company is Significant. My partner, Nina Yang, we've done a number of films. Actually, we've done a number of films here in New York. We did Roxanne here, and we're about to do another one called Passing here, I think, in a couple of months.
Yeah, the projects you choose have been some of my favorites in the last couple of years because they all do, focus on the Black narrative, Black stories. They're very diverse, inclusive stories, whether it's Fruitvale Station or, Sorry to Bother You. They're really original. So what sort of projects do you guys look for? What's important for you at this stage in your career to make sure certain stories are being told?
We want to have cultural impact, but we want to also find specific stories that are told by individuals, to allow people a room to have a voice to the different perspective on the world and life, particularly people of color to get an opportunity to try to speak out, and show their lives on screen, their thoughts on screen. And we've been doing that from the beginning.
Yeah. And I read that you signed a first look deal with Amazon.
Yeah, for television, because we're
Yeah.
moving more deeply into television, and this is our first foray into television, and we're going to start producing some shows for them.
Yeah, so break down what that means for people and what that means for you. That's a big deal.
Well, I mean, I think they are hopeful that we'll do about 3 shows for them.
Wow.
And we're just starting to develop the ideas and stuff that we'll be pushing through over there and develop them just as we've developed our films and work with them not only as a studio, but it's a producing team. There's a lot of really bright minds inside of Amazon, so we'll get a chance to work with them.
And where are you at as far as, stories that you want to see on screen? Is there a certain space that you see hasn't been filled that you're excited to sort of get in there and produce some new stories?
No, I'm always just looking this in the simpler way, just the stories that impacted or unique from our individual point of view, and that say something emotionally and that help move us forward as a people or a culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
What
What is your interest in playing another real person? Because you've played a couple of real men throughout history. Is there one that you haven't gotten to play that you would look forward to?
I'm okay now.
You're good?
Yeah, I've done a few, and I never say never. I don't know what's gonna come up, but I'm not looking for that at all. Really? No, it's great. It's great, to get to play some really interesting people. I like playing Charlie Parker. That was really interesting for me, and obviously Idi Amin was a very great challenge for me. And I did something with Desmond Tutu recently, where I got the chance to play him. I think people had enough.
We never have enough for us. You nail all of these performances. So any other real guy you want to portray, we will happily watch, okay?
Okay.
Okay. We do have a couple of questions before we get out of here. Who do we have first? Right here.
Hello. So with time comes change, and you have been in the industry for over 35 years. So what is something that you noticed that has changed when it comes to someone trying to be a successful actor?
Successful actor? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that right now, because of all the streaming and mediums and stuff, there's a lot more opportunity for work, and there's a lot more opportunities for diverse individuals or people of color to be able to work than there were before. That's a big change. I mean, when I first started, there was probably one actor of color working, probably Sidney Poitier, and then it went into Eddie Murphy or Cleavon Little. But now it's a full bridge, and we're starting to do universal films and great stories, and people are allowing what would have been independent thinkers or independent filmmakers to tell stories now more readily in different mediums. So it's a unique time right now. It's a unique time. Hopefully it'll continue to blossom,
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, my name is Samir. Hi, Forrest Ruka. I wanted to know what you think Bobby Johnson's favorite character would be in The Godfather.
What it would be in The Godfather?
Yeah.
I guess Corleone. Don Corleone. You know?
Do you have a favorite character, or did you watch any of these sort of?
You know, it's interesting because, like, you know, when you think of there's so many great gangster movies. You think about even like, Scarface, or you know, they're usually more broad, big characters. I played this Bumpy Johnson as more of a businessman, almost like I think of a banker. You know what I mean? Who's got like the potential for violence.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't. That'd probably be it. Just like his representation in the community right now in Harlem. Be that person that people come to. You see it in the script. You see people coming to him, asking him for his help, asking him if he would help them in the community. It's a whole thing going on with him. So,
In your research and the people you talked to, is that how they also described him, as sort of this more reserved guy?
yeah, he wasn't the visually flamboyant kind of guy. He didn't wear flashy clothes, flashy suits. He didn't create, you know, flashy moments. He thought that when I was trying to do the research, I could only find like about, I think it was like maybe 5 pictures of him. Yeah, no video, no film, you know. So that's a statement on like the way he liked to do things, and like the way it's old school, you know, behind the scenes, getting things done. But there was a lot of guys who advised me and told me about some of the violence that he was not averse to like doing the deeds himself. And there was a number of stories where people were telling me about how he was utilizing his brute force to win his moment too. So
When it came to his weapon of choice, I thought that was really something memorable from the show. Is that something he really used in real life, or is that something that was written?
yeah, no, that was something that was used by him. He comes from South Carolina, you know, Gullah South, and I think that's a representation. That's what he's carrying back with him, that blade, being able to, you know.
It's a really intimate way to kill somebody.
Yeah.
The blade, you know, it
Yeah.
almost, he is so reserved and seems so kind of calm, but he kind of picked a very interesting way to get his job done, you know?
Yeah, very clean, very simple. We see him use it a few times. Yeah.
And next question.
Hi, Forrest. I have a question. How has your life changed after receiving an Oscar reward? And what did you feel when you got it?
What I felt, it's like it was an electric feeling, you know. You never know whether it's going to happen or not, and it was like a big jolt and exciting. And all the other actors were really supportive too, so it was a really big moment. How it changed, I mean, I think, in all honesty, I had been doing parts before, and working consistently before I won the award. I was doing like Bird and I had lots of different roles. So I'm not quite sure what changed. Maybe some of the people's perspective, you know, like maybe people felt they could get their movies made easier with my name. That's what I would say, because as an actor, I was just playing different parts before, and I was playing different parts after. I'm still playing different parts now, you know, so that's the way it goes.
Thank you so much, Forrest.
Where do you keep your Oscar?
It was just on right now it was on the stairs in the back as you walk out. Yeah.
So everybody can see it when they're leaving your house?
Actually, no, it's a private staircase.
Oh.
It's not in the living, yeah. Someone would have to ask to go and go back and look and all that stuff.
See, this shows what a humble and great guy this is. I'm like, mine would be in the foyer, right in the front door, as soon as you open it, in a glass case with my name in lights over it. But that's how we're different, Forrest.
Right.
So it's all good. Thank you again for putting the work into this show. Like I said, I love Harlem deeply. I've lived there for 10 years, and I just love seeing stories and the history explored and shared with people. And it's such a beautiful piece of work. It's almost cinematic, so I think people are really going to enjoy it. And if you guys want to check it out, Godfather of Harlem premieres September 29th on Epix. Put your hands together for Forrest Whitaker.
Great.